What's up, YouTube family? It's your man, the White Wolf, and welcome back to another exciting training session. Today, we're going to be doing emotional development, focusing on how to overcome grief. So let us begin. First, we're going to go ahead and define grief. How we're going to define grief is deep sorrow or anguish. This is normally in response to a loss, but generally it creates a deep sadness. Now, if you go looking up the definition of grief, you're going to find a number of different variations. The important thing is that we find a definition that we are able to have a clear understanding of how we are defining the word. In this case, we're really homing in on the deep sorrow, the deep sadness. This is usually in response to a type of loss, whether it be in a loss of a loved one, a family member, a business, a job, a career, moving from a new location. This can come in a number of different forms, and it doesn't only have to be loss, but a lot of times that's just how we recognize it or how it can originate from. The first thing we gotta talk about with grief is it is going to take time, space, and tears to start to heal from this. Tears, crying is very important. Everybody needs to cry. Crying is a major way for us to heal. This whole notion that certain individuals shouldn't cry is just complete hogwash. Everybody needs to cry. It helps us process, it allows the emotions to process through our system. Space. We need to give ourselves the space required. And when I say this, I don't mean that you have to be immediate with it. Sometimes you are in the middle of something that requires your attention and bad things happen. And you can't just drop everything at a dime of a hat. Drop of a hat. There we go. But you're going to need at some point to give yourself the space in order to go through overcoming the grief, of healing the grief. Time. It is not going to be an instant or even really a quick process. That deep sadness is going to come in layers most of the time. And it's not going to be the funnest experience. But by giving yourself the time, the space, and the tears, it is going to help get you started on that path of healing. Now, as we're giving ourselves the time, space, and tears, we have to look at certain aspects. The first aspect is acceptance. The action of consenting to recognizing a process or condition. We have to be real about things. We have to give ourselves the permission to recognize the realities of the conditions we face. We cannot allow ourselves to be in an illusionary state. A lot of people disassociate in this type of sense. When we are in the middle of something that's very important and some heavy things happen, a lot of times we will disassociate in order to stay focused on what needs to be required. This is why when we finally have the space and the time, we have to go to accepting the truth of what we are facing, the circumstances. And we have to be able to give ourselves the permission to really recognize that, to recognize what has happened, and not to run from it, not to pretend like it didn't happen or that it was just made up. A lot of times, this can cause us to start heading towards that place of depression. We're already in that deep sorrow. And then as we start to head into that depression, I like how the best way I heard somebody describe depression was deep rest. Because now we're going into almost like a hibernation because of the deep sorrow and deep sadness. It can shut down a lot of our systems, our energy pathways. And we need to have that time to recover. When we talk about depression, a constant feeling of sadness and loss of interest which stops you doing your normal activities. I believe these just go hand in hand with each other. It can also originate in different aspects of ourselves. When we're healing from this, we need to really learn, in my opinion, the best way to overcome grief is through compassion. The definition that I'm using for compassion is the expression of love, whether it be outward or inward. If you start looking up the definition of compassion, you'll come across a number of different variations. I feel the most important and straightforward definition is the expression of love. Now, when I'm talking about compassion and overcoming grief, it is very important that we fill our own cup up first before we can talk about being able to spread that compassion outwards. Both having that outward expression of compassion to our brothers, sisters, as well as to ourselves, all of these help us heal. But we really need to fill our own cup up first. And so, very similar to how we were talking in overcoming guilt with self-love, we need to first start expressing self-compassion. We need to start showing ourselves more of that tender, softer, more gentle type of love. When I'm using the word self-love in overcoming guilt, that's more of a tougher type of love when we're starting to discipline ourselves and being able to make the choices and decisions to bring us closer to our goals, dreams, and desires. When I'm saying more of self-compassion, this is a type of love that we're giving to ourselves, that we're giving ourselves the time, space, and tears. We're allowing ourselves to be able to dive in to the realities with the acceptance and to be tender, to give ourselves that pat on the back, to allow the emotions to flow out, to allow those tears to flow out, not trying to hold them back, but diving into it more, going back through the memories, the good times, the fun times we had with those individuals that we lost, going through the memories of those times we were with our friends and allies in our hometown, in that state where we moved from. The self-compassion is a much more gentler side than the self-love from overcoming guilt. Now, as we are showing ourselves that self-compassion and we're working through everything, it is very important that we do not compare ourselves to other individuals. Comparison is the thief of all joy. The amount of time it takes you to help fill up your own cup, to help get all those tears out, that it takes you to go through all those memories, to go through all the different layers of feelings that you have inside of yourself, and not running from them, but allowing them to flow through you. Do not feel pressured. Do not feel as though something's wrong with you because it might take you a week or 2 weeks or a month or 6 months or a year. Your healing time is important for you. Now, just as that self-compassion is important, showing compassion outwardly to our brothers or sisters or community is just as important in this healing process. If we allow our emotions to engulf us and we start being mad at the world and mad at everybody we see, that is only going to make it so much worse. It is going to make the whole process 1,000 times worse. Because then we're starting to put out ill will. We'll start putting out negative emotions, and all that we're going to be bringing towards us is negative emotions. And at the same time, we're going to be closing up the energy pathways that we're needing to be opened through this compassion. Doing this outward compassion can have many different forms. It could be as simple as going to the park, walking on the sidewalk, and as you pass them by, you might not feel your very best, but you still recognize the gift of this day. You're able to maybe just put a half smile on your face, and as you see your brother or sister pass by, you wish them a pleasant day. You wish them a good day. You can start off as simple as that. And that will help you heal. It will help you overcome your grief. Moving up to acts of service. When we volunteer at different entities and we're able to feel that we're contributing to our community. Even though we might not be in the best place emotionally, even though we might feel that we have that heavy burden still. That companionship we start to develop through a common good helps uplift us, it helps heal us, it helps us feel connected, and that connection with each other, that we are all one, is vital to helping us heal in many different ways. Compassion, in my opinion, is the fastest way to overcoming grief. The self-compassion of giving ourselves time, space, and tears, of accepting the realities, of being gentle to ourselves, and having the outward expression to our brothers or sisters in the community. This will help us overcome the grief. And now, let me talk about my own experiences on how I overcome different aspects of grief that I faced. So let me first talk about the grief I started feeling after I left the military after a couple months. Because initially I was on cloud nine. I was like, yes, I'm free. Thank you. I'm done with my service. No more night missions. Ha ha ha. And I was just ecstatic. And at first it was super nice, but a couple months after leaving, it was such a shell shock. Going to the civilian world, I tried working a couple different jobs and it was not jiving with me morally. And I could understand at the time why. It just felt so. I couldn't. I just couldn't. My intuition was just screaming at me. And then I would start to remember more and more about my boys. I served with some really freaking awesome men. My boys from Afghanistan, my boys from freaking Germany. Those were some deep connections. And I love those guys. For real. They made the experience so much more than I could have imagined. They were some of the coolest freaking dudes I've ever met. And being able to work alongside them was such a fucking pleasure. And leaving that was it started to it's hard. It started to be hard. And then after everything happened with the way we left Afghanistan, it just felt like everything became so pointless. The whole mission, like what we were doing, how many people we sent there to freaking die, how many people we killed over there, all of it just seemed so freaking meaningless. And I just couldn't, it just ate me up inside with the leadership. And I know a lot of them had men who died being over there. And it's just like, how can we even have the level of respect for ourselves after the way that we've exited and just completely gave everything up, and the lives that were lost, the people we killed? It was just like, holy shit. And I ain't gonna lie, I definitely started feeling grief, especially after you go through months and all these things happen, and you start and you see all the freaking military gear you still have, and you look at it and it's just like, bro. And the first thing came accepting that I was out the military, accepting that the military wasn't what I thought it was. The whole reason I joined was to be with my brothers and sisters on the front lines, because I thought we were freaking fighting for, our families, for something that freaking mattered. And after looking at the realities of what was really taking place and being out and being able to have that different perspective, it really woke me up to the truth that that was an illusion. And before I really started being able to walk the path that I walk now, I just felt so freaking lost. I felt so freaking lost. And the first thing that really helped keep me grounded was volunteering. That was the most important aspect for me to help keep me in a place of there was more. That there was more to just making money. That was more than all these dark ass fucking jobs that just want to soul suck your fucking time. That there was more to life. That there was more to us. That there was more to this human experience. It helped open up my heart in a way that really helped me remember why I joined the military in the first place. Because looking at that old ass military gear after you've been out for a while, it hits. The first time it really fucking hits. It really hits, man. Knowing that some of the deepest connections you made with people just ploop, gone. Well, I shouldn't say gone, but it's not the same once you get out. Just the whole environment and mentality all around you is completely different. And the grief that I experienced from moving to a different career field completely at first was very difficult because I didn't have that purpose. I felt like I lost my purpose. But trusting first in God, being led to do the service, to start connecting in different ways, it helped open up my heart in such a way again that allowed me to remember that there was more, that there was so much more, that all these illusions of the military and facing the realities of that and seeing that that was never really the right place for me anyways. I am very grateful for the training, and I'm grateful for the way that it has helped shape me. But now recognizing and knowing that it wasn't where I was meant to be. That would have never happened if I didn't start with service, with finding that connection with my heart again in the community, in the systems that we have in place, and seeing how they're working, and starting to really piece together my mission, to really feel and understand and know in my heart that there was more for me, for all of us, that there's so much more for each and every one of us, to start hearing my soul calling out to me. That shit, hearing your soul, is freaking, bro, it helps you heal. It definitely helps you heal. And it helps you start getting focused and remembering what really fucking matters. That there is more, and that there's certain types of understandings that really start to change the way that we look at everything. And so for me, really overcoming the grief of the military was through the service and finding my mission now, of finding my soul, of hearing inside of myself by giving myself that self-compassion and realizing that now that I've had the time, the space, the tears, now that I've gotten all that out the way, that hearing my soul, I'm now able to start focusing on opening up my power, the power inside of the heart. The heart is the powerhouse. It is so much freaking power that is going to be a little bit later on that we're going to talk about. But now I'm able to look back at my experiences in the military, and I appreciate it. I don't feel enraged by it. I don't feel guilty by it. I don't feel as though I've wasted my time anymore. Now I am just very appreciative of the type of skills and the strengths that has given me. And I know it was needed for my mission now. So, one more story I'm going to share about when I experienced grief. And this is when I grieved for my children. When I had to start my divorce and had the restraining order put on me, and they were trying to say that I was unfit to be in my kids' lives. The sadness that washed over me at first was, a lot. It was a lot. And self-compassion was so critical at that time. When this had gone down, this was right after still kind of healing from the military experience. They took back Afghanistan, so I was kind of, I was in a little bit of emotional places. But at least at that time, I had unlocked enough of my energy to have a strong connection with God and to really know that there was more. I knew that I was going to master the 5 elements. And this is the thing about specifically the heart. The lower aspects of our energy and the upper aspects of our energy meet in the center, in the heart, where grief blocks and compassion opens. This is where, God worked magic in my life. I will say this: God has to come first. Having that connection with God really opened it up step by step. But that's why this is important to understand all these little aspects of our energy, at least talking about them in this type of way. We have to start from the bottom and work our way to the top. And once we get there, we really have that firm connection with God. And then it comes back down. And then we meet in the middle. The middle is where all the magic happens. The heart is where all the magic is. So, first of all, the most important thing that I keep talking about at this point for me was self-compassion. Learning how to love myself. This was a mix of loving myself and self-compassion. The number one thing that kept me from really losing it and really just giving into the darkness, is I felt like going underneath a rock, bro. I felt like, holy, like what? Like I couldn't comprehend. My world was spinning. I was at a place of deep rest for a little bit, okay? And what first got me out of that place of deep rest was self-compassion. I wrote down on a card, and I had that card by my bed, and I read this card every night and every morning. And on the card, it said, I love myself. I am worthy of love. I will spread love. Every single day and night, reading that card, sometimes multiple times throughout the day. That was the most important thing that kept me from going into a very bad place. It kept me feeling hopeful. Hopeful enough that even though emotionally I was not the best, trusting in God, God brought me everything I needed, the people I needed. He gave me the hope I needed. God led me to the answers, told me not to give up, told me not to run away. The biggest thing whenever we face any type of grief in any type of form, I think, is not running away, not being scared to face it. and then working. This is why, again, I talked about the other aspects first. Though I say, each one of these have specific aspects. I say like compassion for overcoming grief. They're all intertwined amongst each other. You can't even get to the compassion if you are in a place of fear. If you don't have any faith in yourself or the universe. If you're not taking steps to better yourself. If you're not forgiving. Because all of these are needed even when you get to that place of compassion. And then when you get to that place of truth, and we get to that place of intuition. These are not separate aspects, but they keep building upon each other. And then there's so much more even in between there, which we'll talk about a little bit later on with different types of virtues. But getting past the grief, because if I would have allowed myself to just stay in the grief and to just be in my little pity party state mood and just not freaking fight. Boy, if I didn't fight, I would have not had my kids. And it is thanks to God that He brought me literally every person, everything I needed to have the strength to fight. That it snapped me out of it. And to get to that place of having the strength of fighting, the first steps was self-compassion. If I wasn't kinder to myself, if I wasn't more gentle to myself, if I wasn't forgiving to myself, if I wasn't doing the self-love, taking the steps necessary in order to create a better future for myself and to feel that I had something more in my life, I wouldn't be able to have overcome that grief, to be able to give myself on what needed to be done. Those 3 months were like just crazy. It was just so crazy. I think those were probably the most transformative months of my life. Going from literally deep rest, almost giving up, to freaking getting my kids back. And not backing the fuck down. And fighting. And learning to be softer to myself. And it's just so weird how all these mix together. And yeah, I think that was just the most important at that time when talking about grief. And there's still things to be done. We might not be at 100%, but there's still things that have to be done. And if we're in that place of deep rest and we don't have the will, the strength to keep moving forward, bros, there's certain things we can't allow ourselves. I would say, in my case, if I would have just allowed myself to stay in that place of grief, I wouldn't have my kids. But because I turned to God, because I did self-compassion, because I did all the other aspects that we talked about beforehand with the forgiveness, the self-love, the faith, all of that combined helped me to really overcome that grief. And not just that, but being able to know I had integrity, that I lived in my truth. I've been living in my truth. That I'm able to listen to a certain part of myself now. And though nobody might understand why I do certain things, I do certain things because I hear myself. I hear something inside of me telling me to do this, go there, do that, trust this, do that. My intuition be freaking on point, boy. Because now I know that I have that connection, or I had that connection with God. I was able to overcome. It is working the lower aspects of ourselves and the upper aspects of ourselves to really develop that power. Because now when I face different aspects of grief, it's not always straightforward. It's not ever a quick process. but to be able to get enough to get back on that feet, boy. And sometimes, especially critical moments, because that's a time period where I had to be back in action quicker than I thought I would have been ready for. But it happened. God helped me make it happen. That deep sorrow, you know, I ain't gonna say I overcame it all right then, but I got enough to get my kids back. And then I still had to grieve, my ex-wife, because I did love her. And when your marriage ends after 8 years, it's not the easiest thing, especially when it turns freaking crazy. And it's like everything changes. It's like, it's a lot. It's different aspects that just kind of can add on to it. And that's why you work all these different parts. You work this part, you work that part. When I finally got done grieving over my ex-wife, it took some time. I ain't gonna lie. That wasn't fast. At one point, I was holding out. We used to watch anime together for quite some time. And I was hoping, even after all that we would get to a place of just being able to be, maybe not friends, but friendly. I don't know. At one point, I ain't gonna lie about it. Because now I'm telling a different type of side of things. But now I'm talking about when I'm grieving my ex. Because I know I wasn't perfect. I tell y'all, I cheated on her. I came honest with it. I expect people to be mad. I accepted the consequences that were my actions. But I kind of held out hope for a while there that maybe things could change. That hopefully, I understood that she was mad, but I understood that certain actions were taken. I still love that person. I still had loved that person for quite some time. And I ain't gonna lie, I held out for a little bit. I was hoping we could maybe watch anime again, be friendly again. And I did that for like a year after all that happened. And then finally, I woke the fuck up. Yeah, trust. It took me a little bit. I ain't gonna lie. It took me a little bit, but I woke the fuck up. And I started really realizing. And that's the thing, too. It takes time to develop these deeper and deeper. And then we start talking about different virtues. Because these are enhancers to all these different aspects of ourselves. And then you start to really recognize, what the fuck was I thinking? Because let me tell you now, boy, I am not a fool. I will never allow anybody into my space again who will tear me down, who will freaking talk to their friends badly about me. This is the person, somebody who talked so bad about me all the freaking time to their friends, to family members, who said the most horrible things about me on freaking pieces of paper to the court to try to get the kids taken away from me, to put in false allegations to the police. This is a person that I've waited for. I waited for that after a year. And it took me that long to really start waking the F up and to start being like, I deserve freaking better. Like, yo. It took me really going through all these aspects of myself, opening them all up more and more and more to finally get to a place of like, oh shit, I realize my worth. I realize that, one, I don't need to be with anybody right now. That shit doesn't fucking matter. I'm just gonna be straight up honest. Because if you're with somebody out of desperation, you're gonna let somebody in who is just gonna fucking tear you down. And I will never allow anybody into my energy who will tear me down again like that. Or in any form. Because now I have such a high level of respect for myself in the way I carry myself, in the way that I train, in the way that I stay focused, in the way that I heal, in the way that I really appreciate the person that I am. I'm the type of guy who now I'm just like, holy shit. I am very grateful for who I am now. And it'd take anybody else. It'd take nobody else lifting me up. It took fucking God. For real. It is all you need at times is really God. Now, I ain't saying that, we need to disown each other. No. Obviously, we need each other because otherwise the human race would freaking end. But we need each other in a place of being healed. We do not need each other in these types of toxic ways. And what we're seeing nowadays, especially with how relationships are, why the dating field is so fucked up. It's so fucked up because a lot of people are fucking hurt. And hurt people hurt people. And why the fuck you want to be next to somebody who's fucking hurt? All right. That's when we get back to that place of we need to do more inner work and really get that place of self-respect and self-love so we can recognize one that we are that person who is putting out that energy that we want to receive. Because if we're not even there yet, how the fuck are we going to expect somebody else to reciprocate that? And so I got a little bit off course there at the end though. But I really just want to home in that it goes deeper. All of these go deeper and deeper and deeper. And you start getting more realizations. And though I'm saying to overcome grief is compassion, which in my opinion, number one, it is. It also depends on what level you're at. When you're literally down on your luck, that self-compassion is number one. Really filling your cup first is number one. Making sure that you're not taking yourself out the game is number one. Giving yourself that love. Being your own best friend. Picking yourself up out of the darkness. Knowing that God is with you. Feeling it, trusting it, knowing it. Because the universe is helping you. Then we start to move on to different aspects. And like I said, grief takes time. A lot of this stuff takes time. But you see that you start working on different parts of yourself too. And then you become somebody who starts getting more into the community. You start seeing the love and healing that love in the community. And I think that's really why it's so important, that compassion. Because that compassion is really that expression of love. Is how we express love to the world, to ourselves, to each other. Because once we are finally on that path of healing and we start powering up that heart center, that compassion becomes so much more powerful than anything we could have really realized. I'm gonna keep saying this. That heart space is a freaking powerhouse. It is like the engine. Our will, allows us to take action, but the heart is what generates the power. And so, I'm gonna leave it there, YouTube family. I hope that this episode was helpful on overcoming grief. I'm going to talk a little bit more about probably a little bit of all of these because, like I said, they're all intertwined, but it's different how you keep going on your journey and you start seeing different aspects, especially when we start talking about attachment. Oh, yeah, trust. When we start talking about attachment, we're going to come back down to this one too. Because once you let people go, because you finally got on a certain level of understanding, you're starting to be aware of your energy and who's around it, who's influencing it, and who you gotta let go, and you choose to let them go. Well, you're going back to maybe a little bit of grief, and you got to heal again, and it's like, a cycle. It's interesting. There's a lot of different aspects, and it's really cool. But we also have different virtues to talk about, and so I'm going to end it there, YouTube family. Thank you, everybody, for sticking around to the end of the episode. I hope everybody was able to get an understanding on how to overcome grief. That being said, if you haven't yet, hit the subscribe button. Take some time, head over to the Stand store, type in White Wolf 719. There you can get yourself a free Warriors of Light leveling guide. This leveling guide is going to help you get from level 1 to level 2 to level 3. Once you're at level 3, homie, you walk in your purpose. You with God. You know, you're tapped into your intuition. You at a certain level that you're ready for your mission. You're heading towards your mission. You know, you're just walking in that direction more and more and more. And this leveling guide is free, so go ahead and get that for free. Also, hey, become a volunteer for the Soul Society Revolution. I'm realizing more and more and learning more and more. And I'm going to go into much more clarity about this as well. So I've realized that that's probably something I need to do. I'm not perfect either, okay? These are things I've been working on for a long time, and I have them spread out everywhere. And I'm realizing I need to start fine-tuning and putting them more directly in front of people in a way that's more understanding. So, yeah, get ready for that. Get ready for more straightforwardness on what we're really trying to accomplish here. Because we are going to make heaven on earth, but it's better if we understand what we're doing and what we're really trying to accomplish, like making our basic needs, necessities invested, protected, and accessible for everybody, like making the development of the human being the priority, like things like that. And so I'm gonna let you go, family. Everybody have a beautiful, wonderful, and blessed rest of your day, rest of your week, rest of this month. Love and light leads the way. Trust in God. Know that He's got you. And have a beautiful